All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming this morning. So today we are gonna, you guys I think have done all the other stuff and I think this is the last one. So we're gonna delve down to home inspections and radon contingencies, contingency removal addendums, avoiding contracts, releasing contracts, and walkthroughs. So let's get started here. This is what we're going to be learning today. So first thing, so home inspection radon contingency addendum. This addendum is going to be attached to your contract if your purchaser has decided that they want to do a home inspection. And it can be a home inspection to void only, or a home inspection for the seller to repair, or if they don't like it, they can void. So whatever type of home inspection, this form needs to be attached to the contract, okay? So in the beginning here, this whole thing up top, once you put your contract into zip forms, all this will auto-populate. So just double check and make sure everything is correct on top. Number one, A and B, these are miscellaneous provisions. Letter A is basically stating that, so when you do a home inspection, the utilities have to be on. Water has to be on, everything needs to be on. If it's not on, you will want to let the sellers know, hey, it's not on, electricity is not on, utility, whatever it is. This is where you want to put a date or a time of days that you want to extend your period. So usually you have about 7 to 10 days to do a home inspection. If you go in and you find that there's no utilities or anything, this is where you're going to put an extension period. So I usually put 3 days just to give the sellers time to, if they need to call their utility company or whatever they need to do. So this is pushing your contingency an extra 3 days so that you guys are able to go in and get everything done, because the inspector needs to come in and check everything. That's why everything needs to be put on. Letter B, this is just stating that once your home inspection is done, you need to either send this, the inspection report, radon report, any kind of addendums, if they decide to void, if they wanted to do a void and release, anything that needs to be sent prior to the deadline. This is very important because you need to have deadlines on everything. So if you don't meet your deadline and you go over it, then the contract remains full in force and you don't have any contingencies. So your buyer is out that home inspection contingency or the radon contingency. So that's just a little blurb just to let everyone know. Any questions so far? Okay. So 2 is home inspection contingency with the right to either void or ask the seller for repairs. So this basically is stating that you have a home inspection up until contingent upon home inspection up until 9 p.m. blank days after you're ratified. So the ratification, remember, it's whenever your contract was signed by all parties and you're all ratified and under contract. I usually put 7 days here. It allows me to get with my inspector, gives everyone time to, make sure everyone's got time to get off work, whatever they have to do. So 7 days by 9 p.m., you have to have the home inspection done. 2, Roman numeral 1. Once you do the home inspection, so you, the agent, the home inspector, and your purchasers will go to the home. You all will do the home inspection. It takes a few hours. He'll look at everything. And once y'all are done, you would have to, the inspector will send you guys a report. Once you get the report, the entire copy of the report plus the deficiencies, this is if you have, this type of negotiation repairs. So you write up and we're going to talk about it next, but you're going to write up a home inspection contingency removal addendum. So you and your buyers after the home inspection will go back and you'll discuss the items that they need to want fixed, any big items. You don't want to ask for little teeny like nail pops or things like that. You want to ask for big things. If the HVAC is not working, roof is leaking, anything that's a big item, you definitely want to ask for that. But you'll discuss it with your clients, see what you guys want to do, and then you're going to put an addendum together along with the inspection report, and you're going to shoot a copy over to them. If after, so that's number 1. Number 2, if the home inspection comes back and the purchasers are like, you know what, there's just way too much stuff. There is mold in the property. The HVAC's not working. We don't even want to ask them to fix anything. This is not a house for us. They want to void. They can absolutely void on this. This is one out that they can do. So by sending a notice to void contract and a release of the earnest money deposit, you send that over. And again, this has to be prior to that deadline, okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Number 2 is a negotiation period. So you get your home inspection done. You come back and you and your clients want to discuss what needs to be fixed. You write down the home inspection addendum removal contingency, and you shoot that over to the seller side. Right here, you have a negotiation period of blank days by 9 p.m. at that end of that day. I usually put 5 days. And the reason why I put 5 days there is if you fall on a Thursday or a Friday for doing a home inspection, the sellers have a little bit of time. Like sometimes if there's big items, they want to call around and make sure that they have the best deal for them, or if they can get someone out there. Contractors are super busy, so you want to give them enough time to get somebody out there so everything moves smoothly. So I put 5 days, and that right there, that you guys can go back and forth between the sellers and the purchasers as many times as you want up until that 5th day by 9 p.m. Okay. If at any time within that 5 days, you guys are not agreeing, you put 5 items that you want fixed. The seller says, I want to do 3. And your purchaser is like, no, I really need those 5. And you guys are not agreeing at that last point. Then you can definitely go ahead and send it back and say, you know what, we're just going to void. We're not agreeing. So that negotiation period, 5 days, you definitely have to decide with your purchasers what they want to do. At the end of the 5 days, if no one has reached a decision, no one can agree, the negotiation period is over, you've got another 9 p.m. blank days to be able to send over the void. Okay, so I put 2 days there. So we do the 5 days negotiation period. We don't come to a conclusion. My buyers tell me, hey, I don't want this house anymore. All right, great. We're going to go ahead and send the void and the release. We have 2 days to do it. So by the 2nd day at 9 p.m., that letter and the release has to be sent over to the seller so that you can remove your clients from this contract and you can get their earnest money deposit back. Make sense? Okay. Any questions? All righty. Letter B. This is pretty easy and quick. It's pretty much the same thing, except it's to void only. So this is a home inspection. We saw a lot of this. Well, we didn't see any home inspections, but if you were to do a home inspection the past couple of years, we saw this one. This is just a void only. So it's a home inspection. You go with your inspector, you go with your buyers, you get in there and they just basically do the home inspection, and it's for the buyer's information purposes only. However, if there's something big that the buyers don't want to tackle, then you can void. You can void out on this. What I write in here is 7 days as well. So by the 7th day at 9 p.m., you have to have the inspection done. And if you guys want to void, you will have to do it by 9 p.m. that 7th day. If you do it on day 8, your buyer is not going to be able to do it because there's no longer contingency and the contract remains full in force. They won't get their EMD back. So again, dates are very important. So you want to make sure you write all these down somewhere, have it in your calendar, whatever is easier for you guys, just so that you know when the dates are, so you're staying on top of things, okay? Next one, radon testing. Does anyone have questions before we go on to radon testing? No? Okay. Radon testing. So radon is a type of gas. It's underground. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but you can test for it. Usually in homes that have, underground basements, condos on the 1st level, anything as far as condos go, 2nd level and up, you don't really need to test it, but anything that's on the ground, you would want to test. It does come from the ground, it seeps through. Do you have a question? No questions? It does seep through, so you would talk to your clients, see if they want to do a radon test. The inspector usually does it if your inspector does radon as well. So this is, again, another contingency, a radon testing contingency. Inspector will go in. What I usually do, again, you want to put the dates. I put 9 days. I allow 2 more days after my 7th day inspection. And the reason why I do that is when the inspectors go in and put a radon in there, they have to put the radon box in there for 2 days. So what some inspectors will do is put the radon box prior to the home inspection 2 days. And then once they do their home inspection, they grab the box and they leave. Some inspectors put it on the day of home inspection, keep it 2 days, come back to the property, grab it. So I put the 9 days contingency. You will have to have a licensed, obviously, person do this because they're testing radon. Letter B is the testing guidelines. So sellers agents want to tell if their clients, hey, if they're doing a radon test, this is what you need to do prior to. So what they do is they put it in the basement. So no windows need to be open, no doors are allowed to be open. They want to contain the box in an area so that they get the accurate readings. If you have air flowing through, it's not going to give an accurate reading. So B is basically just a little, guidelines to let the sellers know, hey, this is what you need to do. Right under B, should radon professional indicate in writing that these requirements have not been met, seller will pay for a new test. So basically the seller should have known to do this, whether the agent had told them or the agent went through this report with them, or I'm sorry, this addendum with them, they should have known. Sometimes inspectors, when they put in the box, they will put notes all over the place. Please don't open doors, just to give an FYI. But if they feel that that has been done and they can't get an accurate reading, then the seller will have to pay for a new test under the buyer's direction. Okay. And if that should happen, again, you need another date. I put 2 days for this one because that should be enough time for the clients to close their doors and everything. So 2 days after that happens, the contingency will extend another 2 days to allow the testing to be done. All right. If that usually doesn't happen. I think I had it once where the water was turned off. And so we went in there, we did all of our home inspection. We let her know that water was turned off, and we came back and checked the water real quick. But it's an easy fix, but you just want to make sure that you have those dates in there to cover you and your purchaser. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, so at the end of the radon, so what it is, the accurate reading, so the normal readings are 4.0 PCIs. If it's higher than that, they will need to remediate. So the inspector is going to give you a report, and it's going to have what he does. I think it's hourly that they test it. And they send you the report, and he'll let you know, he or she will let you know, hey, this is what it is. If it's 4.0 and below, you're good to go. Nothing needs to be done. If it is 4.1 and above the 4.0, the sellers have to put a remediation system in there in their house. It costs, I've heard, it's about between $800 and $1,300 to put one in the home. So letter C is as follows. Again, negotiation period. If it does come back high, you want to talk to them. You want them to have enough time to talk to a couple different radon companies to see which is best for them. I put 5 days there. Again, just to allow enough time for everything. So you go back and forth, let them know, hey, you're going to send the report, and you're going to send everything on too, and let them know it's high. So everything has to be signed, and that's the sheet behind this one. I'll show you guys. So once that is sent, 5 days to negotiate, they can come back and say, yeah, we'll do it, or they'll come back and say, no, we won't do it. It will be silly for them not to do it, because if they decide that they don't want to do it, it becomes an adverse defect. I don't know if you remember that one. So it's a known defect in the home that everyone knows about. So if they decide that they're not going to continue with your offer, they're going to go back on the market. They're going to have to let the next buyer know hey, there's radon in the basement. So it'd be best for them to just fix it with the contract that they already have and move forward. If for any reason, again, you guys can't reach an agreement by that 5th day, then again, I put 2 days down here, just so that the buyers can void if needed. And you have until 9 p.m. to void it. Any questions so far? You guys are quiet. All righty. Everyone needs to sign and you shoot it on over. Next one. So this is one that I actually wrote up. I had to look really far back because I haven't written one in a while. So I found this, I think this was a couple of years ago because I haven't had a home inspection in forever. This is the home inspection contingency removal addendum that you would need to send to the sellers along with the inspection report and the radon, noting what needs to be fixed, okay? What I usually do is I put, so again, in the top right here, you wanna make sure that everything's still accurate. Make sure that, you know, addendum's date is there, the purchasers and the seller and the property is all there. So just double check everything. This right here, if your contract calls for a home inspection, a radon contingency, a well and septic, and you know, all these right here, it says buyer agrees to remove the following checked contingencies: home inspection, radon, etc. If those are contingencies that you have and there's things that you need to be fixed, you can check that box because it says upon seller's agreement to remedy the items below, then the contingency will be removed. So so this one right here, I didn't do a radon on this one, but we did a home inspection. So I clicked the box home inspection. We asked for these items to be fixed. They agreed. And then my contingency is removed. So that's an out that they had that is now gone. Okay, so you always have to remember these because if, you know, you always want to make sure that your clients know their outs, know when they can be removed from the contract and get that earnest money deposit back in their pocket, because if there's no more outs, they become a default and it's a big mess. So pay attention to these dates. This one, what I usually do, and you want to be as detailed and accurate as possible for the other side to know what your buyer wants to do. So this one, we had some staining in the attic. So what I tend to do, I put number 1, I put where I'm aiming to target in the house. And then I stated moisture related staining noted in the attic below the plumbing vents, yada, yada. Please, on the bottom of the sheet, it does say that you need a licensed contractor to do all these items, but I always reiterate that fact just so that they know what I want. And then I end it in parentheses with what page number it is on the inspection report and what item number, so they can see what I need, go back, because there's also pictures in the inspection report. So I do that with all those, be as accurate as possible. Don't put, hey, see page 1, item 1, and be done. I've had sellers or buyers, as a selling agent, I had buyers come in and send me this exact addendum, and I had no clue what they wanted. They would put page 1, see picture, whatever. And I'm like, well, what do you want with it? Like, if it's a cracked window, do you want me to cover it with a curtain? Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know. So you want to be as detailed as possible for that. Okay. Any questions so far? No? You guys are easy this morning. All right. So this addendum goes along with the home inspection report. If there's a radon that you needed to do as well, if the radon came back good, what I usually do is on the bottom of the sheet, I say radon contingency now removed, just so that they know that it's clear. If the radon came back high, you also want to write it on this addendum that states radon level is blah, 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 and you write your whole blurb so that they know that's an item you want fixed as well. Okay, make sense? All right. I feel like I wanted to tell you guys something else about this one. Nope. So what I tend to do is I do a home inspection that evening when we get back home after dinner with my buyers. We'll talk about the report. We'll talk about what items they want, because I wanted to send this off right away. Once you send it off right away, day one, remember you have the 5-day negotiation period. Day one starts the day after you send it. Okay, so you got to remember those 5 days too. You can also, this is the one that goes back and forth negotiation 5 different times, any different way. There's a whole bunch. Now, this little section here, you don't have much room for this. And in zip forms, there's a couple different forms of this. So you can pull out more than one. You're going to have to do, sometimes if you have like more than 4 items, you're going to need a couple different addendums and stick it on there, like 5, 6, 7, 8, stick them all together. You can pull those out of zip forms. And then what happens, if they come back and they agree to everything, then the sellers will sign, you're good to go. If they come back and say, we'll fix 1 and 2, but not 3 and 4, and your purchaser agrees to that, then you're going to mark that line off and everyone's going to have to initial that portion just to show that, hey, we are all in agreement. They're not going to do 3 and 4. We're good to go. Everyone signs and you're done. Okay. Questions? All right. Next one is the notice voiding contract. So this applies to pretty much everything. So if your contract has, or if your contract has a property that has an HOA or a condo fee, your inspection, appraisals, anything that you can contractually void the offer, this is the notice voiding contract that you guys need. Okay, so what you'll write, again, all this will be written out for you. Make sure it's all proper. The undersigned party hereby gives notice voiding the contract to the seller or the purchaser. So if you, it's rarely the seller that gives notice, so it's mostly the purchaser, but you want to write the correct one. So if you're the purchaser and you're voiding out on home inspection because you just guys did not get along, or you did a home inspection to void only and it's just too big of a project and you don't want to do it, you grab this notice and you write up that you're the purchaser and you're giving this to the seller. So you want to check the seller box. If it's an HOA or a condo, you read the docs and there's something in there that your purchaser does not like, you can void the contract. So this is the notice that you want to send. So you want to put in there that you're the purchaser giving the notice to the seller or the purchaser, again, whichever it is. If it's a seller, you send it to the purchaser. And then you're going to write notifying the party that declares the contract void is permitted pursuant to paragraph blah or addendum. So this right here, if it is, say it's a HOA, you want to find the paragraph of the contract that states about the HOA, and you want to write it in here, you know, paragraph blah of the contract, or paragraph blah of the addendum. So if it's a home inspection addendum, you would write paragraph 2A or whatever it is of the home inspection addendum. So you always want to specify what it is they're voiding on. Okay, number 2, this notice is not a substitute for release, nor does it authorize the disbursement of any earnest money deposit regarding the contract. This is just specifically saying that you're voiding out. There is a release, and the release will state the EMD responsibilities and all that stuff. And then in order for both parties to be released of all any responsibilities, a separate release must be executed. And that's coming up next. We'll talk about that as well. Seller and purchaser will comply with the terms of the void contract paragraph of the contract. And notifying parties termination hereunder is not a waiver of any right or remedy under the contract. This termination is not an election or limitation of notifying parties' right to rely on or other right to remedy provided by the contract or applicable law. Little blurb. And then the notice voiding contract is given by the seller or the purchaser. So if you're the purchaser giving the notice to the seller, you're going to put purchaser down here. So you're going to just check which one's giving the void. And then this one just has the notifying party signature. You don't need the other side. This is just the party that is voiding out the contract needs to sign. Any questions so far?
Nope.
All righty. Gosh, you guys are gonna, like, it's only 30 minutes and I only have like 2 more sheets. No questions whatsoever. All righty, well, let's get to the release of sales contract. So this release of sales contract and deposit goes hand in hand with the void to notice, okay? This, again, on top, everything should be already done. Just make sure that it's all in there. And then you write number 1, by sales contract ratified on blah. So you want to put the date of ratification. Purchasers agrees, agreed to purchase, and sell agreed to sell the property. And you just write the property address right here. This is basically stating that the seller and purchaser wish to terminate all rights and obligations of the contract. Seller and purchaser mutually release and fully discharge each other of any and all claims, demands, damages, actions, liabilities of any kind or nature whatsoever on account of, based on growing out of negotiation, execution, performance, termination, release of contract, both as to all the matters and things now known or unknown, and also to all matters and things which may hereafter be discovered. Basically covering everyone's butt and saying, you know, we're releasing everything, and once we release and everyone signs, we're done. You can't come after us on anything. C, this is where you want to state how much the earnest money deposit has to be returned, right? Because it's the earnest money deposit that gets held. If there's no outs and no contingencies, I don't know if you remember from earlier, I think the contracts Matthew was teaching it maybe. If there's no contingencies and the buyer becomes in default, or anyone becomes in default, that EMD for the buyer remains. Like, the seller is allowed to have that EMD. So that's the last thing you want to do, is have your buyers be in default and that EMD be released to the other side. So this is stating that the entire deposit made by purchasers and held in escrow under contract should be dispersed as follows. So obviously, if it's the purchaser who's voiding out, you want to put whatever the earnest money deposit was that was deposited in escrow, be placed right here to the purchaser. And that's all you need to write. If it's anything to the seller, it's right here, and so forth. And then D, the cost incurred for title examination, appraisal, and survey will be the responsibility of who? Purchaser or seller? Again, whoever is voiding, whatever, like this, it's hard to answer this one now because you don't know what the situation happened. But say, for instance, it's, you know, the purchaser wants to void because of home inspection. By the time home inspection, the title and appraisal has not been done yet. The survey hasn't been done yet. And purchasers have to pay for that anyway. So in most cases, it's the purchaser's responsibility to pay for all those.
Question,
Yep.
please.
Yes, ma'am.
The deposit being returned to purchaser and seller is clear. The listing company, is that the brokerage?
It's the brokerage of the listing agent, the selling side or the sales side. Yep.
Okay.
So the
And
home
the
that's being
selling
bought.
company is?
The purchaser's title brokerage.
Okay, so those two
So
are
the listing, yeah, is the house that's on sale. The selling company is the agent that's got the buyers to sell that property.
Okay.
Yep. Letter F, the release constitutes the entire understanding among the parties and may not be modified or changed except by written instrument executed by the participating parties. So basically, everything has to be as is here unless an addendum is written out by both sides, writing other things that they agree to that everyone signs off on. This release does not affect any liability seller or purchaser may have for the payment of brokerage fees or compensation to the respective brokers, because remember, that's for the buyer and seller's agreement. The agent has their own agreement through the, you know, with the brokerage to their clients on what fees everyone has. So that it's just basically stating that this release and everything does not take away from the agreements, whatever the agreement says between you and your client. Make sense? Okay, any questions? No? And then, yeah.
No, I said no questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
You're
Sorry.
good. So this form, everyone needs to sign. So the voiding form, only the voiding party is to sign. This one, everyone has to sign it. No questions so far? All right, so our last form, I'm trying to like drag it because, you know, I think they give us 2 hours. I don't know how I'm going to talk for 2 hours on these forms. All right, so the walkthrough form. So your walkthrough is at, like the very last thing you guys do. So what we want you guys to do for walkthrough is 7 days. You're allowed to do as many walkthroughs as you want 7 days prior to your closing date. Okay. We recommend you guys do on day 7 or 6. You go in there and you make sure everything's good. So what your walkthrough is. Your walkthrough is at the very end. It's right before closing. And you go in there to make sure that everything in the property is in the same condition as it was that was stated on your contract. So if you guys remember back in the contracts, there's a little section that asks the offer is the property maintenance and condition is either date of offer or date of home inspection. You guys remember that part? So whatever those two dates are, you go back to that and you want to make sure that the walkthrough when you're in there is the exact same condition as it was on whatever box you checked. So if you have a home inspection and you're going to click the home inspection box, right? So the day of home inspection, you guys are in there and you see that there's a fridge that's there and there's a couple ceiling fans. You know, anything that you see in there the day that you guys were in for home inspection has to be the same way as your walkthrough. So come to walkthrough, you guys walk in, you want to do it at least the 7th or 6th day. You can do it as many times as you want and the seller has to agree because that's in the contract. You go in there and the fridge is gone, or there's no ceiling fans that were there at the home inspection. There were, you know, big holes in the walls, things like that. The property is not in the same condition. So you want to make sure that that's noted. So again, up here, everything should have been written out. Just double check everything. And then you want to go here and start checking boxes. So 2 things that you're going to look for. You're going to see if all these items are in the same condition as it was for the box that you checked in the contract. And 2, if you did a home inspection, this is your time to double check all the home inspection items. So one thing I forgot to tell you, when you do a home inspection and you ask for items and they agree to everything, they're supposed to send you copies of invoices to show you that it was done. So you need proof of that. So you want to make sure all that's collected before your walkthrough, so you have everything, okay? When you go into final walkthrough, you know, obviously if you do stuff on the roof, you can't really see it. That's why you need invoices to show that it was actually done and paid for and all that. So once you go in there, you know, if there's visible things that you were seeing, like if there was a window cracked and you asked them to fix it and they did fix it and they sent you the receipt and everything, you want to just double check that it's indeed the right window and it's cracked. So that's another thing that you're doing at walkthrough. So checking all these boxes, making sure that they're in the same condition as it was for what you had checked on the contract, and also to make sure all the inspection repairs were completed and in good standing. And the reason why you want to do the 6 or 7 days out is because if there's something that they said, and this has happened many times with me, you ask them to fix something and you go in for the final walkthrough and it's not fixed. So you need that fixed before closing. So you will have to tell them, hey, that's not fixed, and you're giving them time to go ahead and get a contractor out and do it, as opposed to you doing your final walkthrough on the morning of closing or the day before, because that just will stress everybody out. So you want to go down here when you're in the property and you're going to check, like if there was an alarm system, is it still there? Does it convey? Is there a built-in microwave? Is it still there? So you just want to click the boxes. Things that are still there is in the same condition as a yes. If it's not in the same condition, it's a no, and then not applicable. Like if there's, you know, there's no satellite dish at the, when you were there in your home inspection, so it's not applicable. So things like that. Scrolling down, any questions so far? Scrolling down, if everything is in an acceptable condition, everything looks good, buyers are happy, all the inspection repairs are fixed, you get your buyers to sign right here. If you go in there and it's not fixed, or there's big leak, that could happen too. You walk in, everything is great, but then there's a big leak, right? So right down here are discrepancies. So you run it right up here, what's going on? There's a big leak coming down the wall and we need that fixed. A plumber and a licensed plumber needs to come in here and check all this. You're going to write all the remarks here, and then you're going to decide what you want to do between you and your buyers. Seller to correct if there's discrepancies without an escrow. Do you want them to just fix it, send you the receipt? Some buyers are like, yeah, that's fine. It might take a couple weeks to get out there. Some purchasers are like, that's fine, as long as they're paying for it and we know it. Of course, everything has to be in writing. That's fine. Or, seller to credit buyer X amount of dollars. The purchaser says, you know what? There's a leak here. We don't want anyone to come in and fix it. We don't have time for that. Have them just give us a credit and we'll do it ourselves when we go in. Or repairs to be made and paid from funds held in escrow. So you can hold escrow. You can say, hey, there's a lot of things that need to be done. We're just going to put $5,000 in escrow and we're just going to make sure that it's paid for. Once everything is done and it's paid and we see that it's paid after closing, then escrow amount will be released. And then any kind of remarks. Right down here, unless otherwise specified, all repairs are to be performed by our licensed contractor to do the work. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
I was in a class yesterday at FAR on this, and they were saying that the amount of escrow that could be held for these kind of repairs is often limited or is not allowed by the finance company.
Correct. It depends on what type of loan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you typically see that as being a possibility, or do you typically get pushback on, like you said, $5,000 in escrow? That's a big amount.
Again, it does go back to the lender. You would have to talk to the lender, see if there's any room for that. But I haven't seen problems with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And usually it's not too big of an item.
Hopefully.
That's a good question though. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So
Hey, Vera,
yeah.
I got a quick question. Has anybody ever walked away from like the sale with something, like you said, they find repairs have to be made on the walkthrough? Has anyone ever done that where they're just saying, all right, well, that's it, and using it as an excuse to walk away?
They can't use it as an excuse. It's not an out.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, say for instance, the seller is asked to pay something or to fix something, and when the purchasers walk into their final walkthrough, it's not fixed, and the seller's just like, no, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that happens, and it does happen, you will either have to push closing until it's repaired or get that escrow in there until they fix it. At that point, you're probably going to need attorneys to step in, or you can call Matthew. I'm sure he'll love hearing that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because sometimes you have, multiple owners and they disagree and who's not fixing something and whatever,
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, sometimes that's why you definitely want to go in that 6th, 7th day, make sure everything's done so that you have a whole bunch of days at least to try to fix it, negotiate. You want to put it in escrow, talk to the lender. Seller, is not doing it. So you have those days instead of the very last minute. That would be very stressful for everybody. But again, I mean, sometimes it happens where you go in 6 days or 7 days out, and then everything looks great. And then 2 days before closing, you go in to do your final walkthrough again, and everything's a mess. So you do. So there's a lot of different things you can do. You can try to push closing, like I said, or put in escrow, but the buyer cannot void on it. That would have to be an attorney question. They would have to talk to an attorney when it comes to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any more questions? Okay, and so if there's any discrepancies, again, so up here, if there's no discrepancies, you just need the buyer to sign. Down here, if there is, you need everyone to be agreed upon, and so everyone needs to sign down here. what was I gonna tell you guys? I lost my train. Any questions so far? Because that's pretty much it. I mean, I didn't have too much to cover. Any questions on past the forms that we talked about? Did it make sense? Did I confuse you guys completely?
No, it all made sense. I think you were very clear on it. Just wondering about the practicalities and, you know, when you're facing a situation, how the agent, so say you're a seller's agent and things don't quite look right, or you're the buyer's agent and you do want this to complete and suddenly it's going to look like for minor things, it might not go right. You know, how do you kind of handle that situation? I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
For my own purchase, when I moved to Virginia,
Yep.
unfortunately, because of the timing, my walkthrough was on the morning of completion. And the sellers had taken stuff from the walls and there was holes and they removed curtain poles and everything. And unfortunately, my agent didn't raise any of these options you're showing, that there could be funds in escrow I could hold and other things. And I was quite stressed at that time anyway. I'd just flown in from California, you know, I was expecting the keys and it was like, so I'm wondering, you know, that agent stayed quiet because he probably just wanted this to go through and complete. And I'm just wondering, you know, practically, you know, what's your experience of what happens in those tense last few days?
Yeah. So me, if I were your agent and we walked in, or I walked in, because it was a video, right? You weren't there, correct?
No, I was there.
Oh, you were there.
I kind of flew in and straight to the property, and it was just the two of us going around because the sellers had already moved to another state and their agent didn't come.
Yeah. I would have been on the phone right away, talking to the listing agent and saying, hey, XYZ was not done. What's going on? Get all that information done first. If he wasn't handling things good, or if he's like, you know, they're just not doing it, I would call our attorney on the title company, be like, this is what's happening. We need this fixed. And then that's when he jumps in. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't have let it go. Yeah. Unless you were okay with it and you say, don't worry about it. I'll do everything. It's fine. I mean, you have to definitely get, you know, read the room pretty much, talk to your buyers. It's all communications.
Yeah. That's it. Must make sure that your buyer is happy with everything. Yeah. I think I felt like he wasn't, and I thought, okay, maybe it's just me being overly fussy in the whole scale of things. Maybe a few walls in the holes aren't too big a deal. And I didn't make a fuss. But now when I've gone through the training and seeing this, it should really have been the agent saying, these are your options if you're not happy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You want to make sure that your buyer knows everything. Hey, you know, this was not like this when we walked in on home inspection or whatever the box you checked. This could be replaced. This needs to be replaced. This has to, just communication, tell them everything. And then it's up to the buyer to decide. The buyer could easily say, you know what, I'm good. I love this house. It's not that big of a deal to me. I'm just gonna not worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're gonna take the cue from your buyer. As long as you've provided them everything, all the information, everything that is due them, they can make the decision. And then if they say no, like this is a big deal, then you fight tooth and nail. Yeah. Yep. And with everything, it's not just this, like with anything in purchasing, you always want to give all the accurate information to your sellers, to your clients, to your buyers, anybody, renters, anything, and then let them decide. As long as they have all the tools in front of them, they're going to decide what they want to do. You're harming them when you're not giving them the information that's needed.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? let's see, that was all from me. Do you guys have anything, other questions that I can help answer with anything else that you guys have come across, or, you know, with the forms that the home inspection rate on contingency, anything like that?
Honestly, Vera, you were very thorough.
Thanks. I feel like I just went crazy and talked really fast.
No, it went well. I've taken other ones, and most of the time, everyone gets done, you know, before the time allotment.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better.
It's not you.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. I'm glad you're on
You're
here.
welcome. Well, anyway, I got to disconnect because I'm almost at my destination.
All right, no worries. Well, if you guys
All
have
right.
no other questions, you know, you guys free to go. Enjoy your day. Let me know if you guys need anything in the future too. I'm here to help. Yep.
Thank you, Vera.
You're
Thank you, Vera.
welcome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.